Hello, Minecraftians, and welcome to another episode of Realm News, where I put real in realm and expand your mind one block at a time. I am your host, the one and only, the Dark Lord, broadcasting to you from my oldest, biggest metropolis called Seatown in the middle of the Great Ombre Ocean. I hope everyone has had a great week since last time I saw you all on the map rooms and maps and compasses. That was a fun episode. Well, it's that time of the week again, everybody, to melt Minecraft with knowledge. But first, I have a question. Have any of you ever stargazed in the game? Like instead of fast-tracking time by sleeping the night away in your cozy bed? Well, if you have, you probably have seen the stars accompanied by the moon rotating just like clockwork. If you had stayed up late enough, maybe building a new structure while burning the midnight torch, you probably noticed the moon's sibling, the sun, rising from the east. Did you know this sun once rose from the north, set in the south? The heavens above the overworld was a completely different place, my friends. So follow me, the Dark Lord, as we take a tour of the Minecraft cosmos. First, before we lift off to the stars, everybody, we are going to start this off with a poll. Yes, that is right. It is poll time. Because we are talking about space, we are also going to be talking about the day and night cycle. This cycle, as you know, affects hostile mobs and most of them. We all know this, from the new players to the most advanced. We know that these villainous creatures pop out of the dark in bands and in just sheer number. And it is very dangerous to be out there, but we also know that when day comes, also safety comes. So this poll pertains to hostile mobs, and I posed this question on Reddit, actually, and it goes, which is your biggest threat? I put 5 common hostile mobs as options for this poll, okay? I'm going to go ahead and go down this list. So I have zombies here, the zombies in general, like the underwater, the undead underwater ones, all of them, the husks out in the desert, just in general. All of these are general, okay? So zombies, 0 votes. Creeper, 10 votes. Skeleton, 11 votes. Spiders, a whopping goose egg, 0. And the teleporting Enderman, 3. So, the Minecraftians spoke on this poll, and it was a close one. Like, obviously, you just heard me read it between the creeper and skeleton, but the skeleton won, which to me is understandable. They have that range with those dang bows, and they're annoying. I always get knocked off something steep when they shoot me. Like, I'm always traversing something steep. I'm trying to rush back to my base or some shelter, and one of those decayed zombies shoots me and knocks me into the water to my I plummet to my little death and reincarnate back into a far-fetched bed that I didn't want to be. Anyways, I have this city I built out in the tundra, for example, called White Ridge is what I dubbed it. And I was shocked when I ventured out there to claim this territory by all of the skeletons, of the strays that would shoot me with these tipped arrows of slowness, and that's an ongoing issue. So I have lava pouring out of a high structure I built to kind of illuminate when it hits the terrain down below and catch those on fire that venture too close to it. So that's kind of cool. I get a little satisfaction out of seeing them burn. But I was shocked about the creeper results, guys. Because online all I read is how everybody hates the creeper. It blows everything up. Like I mentioned in episode 1, Creeper's Cloak. I think it's just, it does a lot of damage. And they are stealthy. They hiss. They are camouflage. And that little hiss they do make, I don't ever hear it until it's too late. And kablooey, I'm dead with my brother or whoever else is like severely maimed from it. And so I would have thought they would have been the most disliked and considered the most dangerous in this game. But again, the skeletons have that range, and I think that is what matters here, people, is that range and that rapid fire. They can get those arrows out fast, and I hate it when they're in the water because you can't really crouch in the water. So they can just sit there, and it's not like you can block and hold your shield up. I wish they would add that as an option to shield while standing or something. Come on, some better techniques would be nice. But let me know what you guys think. I'll leave this poll on the show. Or comment also, please. Always feel free to comment on all these shows, every episode. And let's move on to the aforementioned day and night cycle in the game, guys. And we will get to how that affects these hostile mobs that this poll was part of. And I learned quite a bit researching this, actually. The day and night cycle of the overworld of our beloved Minecraft. I don't know how much or the extent of your knowledge is to all this, but I've always figured that day and night in this game was perfectly partitioned in the center and equal to each other. Just 10 minutes. I don't know if you know this, but I'll just give it away. Spoiler alert. The whole day's 20 minutes long. From the time you wake up, from sunrise to sunset. Real quick, let me explain to you how to make a clock. So that way you have a way to tell time before we get into the breakdown of the day and night. If you want to make a clock, for you new players, this might be a little bit harder to make right now because you're going to need 4 gold bars and 1 redstone. So I understand if you haven't found that yet, maybe you can find that looting some treasure chests or whatnot, or trade up with some villagers, or just mine for it. I suggest making a deep earth mine, is what I call them. And that's my own title for that. Just dig straight down and branch out from there. Hit bedrock and branch out. You'll find some stuff. 32, I believe, is good for gold. Negative 32, I think. Anyways, moving on. I found a great article from GameRant.com by Mina Smith titled, "How Long Are Minecraft Days and Nights?" So, I want us to start with the beginning of the day and break down the times. According to Smith, the day starts at 6 a.m., which I didn't know that. I didn't really ever think, because the clocks, if you just made one, you notice that it only shows day and night. It doesn't show specific hours. So I never thought of Minecraft being like positioned in hours or set in hours, you know? So to know that's kind of neat to me. Waking up at 6 a.m. It's kind of like when I wake up for my job, you know, my full-time job. Yes, guys, my ruling the empire is a 6 a.m. position, okay? I don't get to sleep in on ruling Ombre Dieu. But I didn't know this next part either, that if you get out of your shelter in time and go outside, which you probably have, you'll see all those beautiful hues and colors coming as the sun rises, right? Just like in real life. That only lasts 23 seconds in the game. Dawn, as we call it. Lasts 23 seconds, so get out of that cave or mine or your shelter early, guys, and catch that beautiful sunrise. And apparently it goes by really fast, not even half a minute. So, moving on from dawn, the next big event, I would have to say, is the sun hits its peak at exactly 5 minutes into the day. And I mean, that makes sense, right? That's midday. That's midday for us, noon. And since we already know it, I guess I haven't told you, a day is 10 minutes. And so 5 minutes into 10, halfway, right? Basic math. So, I mean, that's our high noon right there, which is the best time for crops to be growing because unless it's obstructed or obscured by a rainstorm or thunderstorm, that's going to decrease the light level of your area that you're in, and so they'll slow down the growth of your crop. I tried searching online for exactly how long the dusk lasts, because obviously we have 23 seconds for dawn, and I found a range of answers from 50 seconds to a minute 30 seconds. So I was like, okay, I'm getting on my world. I'm going to time it myself. And I did. I went to Colombia, one of my sky cities, for a view. And this sky city is one of two. It's a neutral city between myself and my brother, the Sun King, who I've mentioned in past episodes, but he hasn't really built anything. I've built the entire city. I'll claim that, okay? And he's listening, so sorry, bro. But it is a neutral place, and that's where I established the bank for both of our kingdoms right there to store all the good stuff. Anyways, so I went up there, and I got some times on this beautiful sunset. And I got 35 seconds in to when I would say there's like a slight band that starts to form a horizon. So 35 seconds into that, when it's just starting to set, you start to see the first dimming. And then it gets blood red orange 35 seconds into the sunset. 45 seconds, 10 seconds later, the stars just barely become visible. And I fell. I was looking up, and my sky town, Columbia, that I mentioned, is 100 blocks in the air. And I fell while gazing and moving, and I walked past my railing, but I got lucky. I mean, I was decked out in armor, but I fell onto the top of a tree. I was severely injured. Like, I thought I almost died, and then I was surrounded by the skeletons. I thought I was going to get shot at, but I was able to scurry to my ladder, which I have branched down to access wood from Colombia, and I was able to go right back up and mend myself up there. But that was fun getting those times for you. But I estimate that lasts for a minute, 10 seconds. The sun fully sets. Anyways, back to Smith's article on their findings. They go on to explain that after 10 minutes and 28 seconds, you can finally go to bed. You can finally click on your bed and sleep throughout the night and fast track to morning. Or stay up. I stay up and get quite a bit of my business done at night. Like, I will be down on mine most of the time. My brother, too, will just mine for structures we want to build during the day. I think that's a good time to get some business done, especially if you need to be outside of a safe harbor to do some business, during the day. That's when you want to get that done and be outside of your forts and cities. So, yeah. let's move on here. So 4 minutes and 32 seconds after bedtime, right? So we've, let's say after that 10 minutes and 28 seconds where you can finally click go bed, 4 minutes and 32 seconds after that, right at 15 minutes in real time, that becomes the official witching hour, midnight. And probably quite literally, you will see witches out there, especially if you happen to be in a swamp, which I have a lot of swamps in my conquered realm. And so I encounter a lot of witches, but witches will generate in light levels of 7 and lower, especially at night, obviously. And that can be quite spooky. It can set quite the setting, you know, especially if you're playing Minecraft around Halloween, it's really fun. And so let's move on to another 5 minutes after that, and the sun has made its complete digital revolution around the cubic world and will be coming back up again, forming its 20-minute cycle. So now you know how the game day and night cycle is broken down, everybody. I hope that helps you kind of, now you know that it's not an even 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And hopefully that'll get you back home in time and whatnot so you can be safe and get into that safe harbor away from all the zombies, spiders, endermen, and all the other things that want to kill you at night. So moving on, I want to go to the sun. The sun. It has been casting its digital rays upon the fauna and flora of the overworld since it was rising in the north and setting in the south during the in-dev or in-development days. And that was back in February 11th, 2010, when that was released and that sun was setting like that. Originally, that was a bug. But for some reason, I didn't really, investigate too far into it. It was left in there for a while, apparently. How this orientation of the rising and setting of the sun, which is funny to me. And that went on till beta 1.9. Pre-release number 4 came out on October 13th, 2011, which was more than a year later, like a year and a half later. So that was interesting that it stayed in that phase for that long. And at the same time, they made the sun round, everybody. I don't think we've seen a round sun. I don't know. I take that back. I haven't. I'm sure a lot of you people have been in this since the beginning. Have remember that. I haven't. But let me go ahead here. Then pre-release 6, according here, that I have written down, November 11th, 2011, a month later, they came back and changed it back to a square. So it's like they just couldn't make their minds up with the sun. Okay, are we going to mimic it over our human sun? Or maybe this will fit the lore a little better since everything's a cube in the world. We have a square world, so it makes sense to have a square sun and moon, right? I missed out on all that fun stuff. The Sun King did not introduce me to Minecraft till I think we were discussing this just like a couple weeks ago. It was around 2013 when he introduced me to the game. He had already got into it, and that's when I fell in love with it. I fell off for years, and I got back on over about a year and 3 months ago on my Kindle. So yeah, I play on a Kindle. He plays on PS5. Anyways, there have been a ton of updates since we had played back in 2013, and apparently there were updates before we got on then. So that was interesting to me personally to know that about the sun. And now it rises in the east and sets in the west, as we all know. And as I mentioned earlier, the length of the day is 10 minutes. I just wanted to get that out there again since we're touching base on the sun. And if you're just now, for some reason, getting into this part, walking into the room, the length of the day is 10 minutes, everybody. And the night is 7. And the sun sets and the moon rises in our world now. They're perfectly face to face with each other. If you build up high enough and you can't see the world below, you will see that. It almost feels like you're in space. Like you'll see them like they're perfectly facing each other. It's kind of funny. Like they're having a stare down. Also, something I had not ever paid attention to, there's no shadows. Like, and the only shadows that do exist, the only things that I could find that cast what resembles a shadow is the mobs. And that's just a little circle that never shifts. Like, it won't move no matter what position the sun is. I can tell the trees don't even cast shadow. It's just like, the light is dimmer. That's it. When you're like under them, it doesn't have an apparent shadow. My buildings, I was looking around, I guess I just never really noticed. At night, you can see the light variations of color, that kind of, but I don't know, it was interesting to me. So building a sundial would be completely worthless except for aesthetic purposes. So I've never built a sundial. If you're not going to get much use out of it. Let's move on, guys, to the mob effects of the sun. Just like in real life, the sun in Minecraft affects. Wait a second. It affects all the mobs and plants. I mean, you can't disagree with that. The sun in Minecraft, obviously, we don't have zombies running around, so the sun extinguishes that. So we don't have that in real life. I wasn't trying to say that, but I want to throw a little bit more data at you about how it affects mobs. Let's get to power levels of light. When the sun is at its max, meaning the light is shining its fullest, I want to say to you guys what I found. That is a level of 15. Light level 15. Allow me to put this in perspective. Your typical torch, right, that you lay to mark your paths and all around your shelters, that puts out a light level of 14. That's not bad. That's one away from being sunlight. So, that's pretty good. But if you want to do better, go grab some glowstone or sea lanterns or jack-o'-lanterns. Are really easy to get. Beacons, even if you have the luxury of those. And there's so many more if you Google it. But glowstones and the sea lanterns and jack-o'-lanterns, that produces a light level 15, the same as the sun. So moving on, during a rainstorm, the ambient light level will drop to a 12. So 15 being max. A rainstorm, your typical one, your drizzle. I kind of like them. I like the storms. My brother doesn't really like them, the Sun King, because he's Sun King, and I'm the Dark Lord. But it will drop to 12 in those rainstorms. And during thunderstorms, the ones that are going to produce lightning and stuff, that's going to drop it to a level 10. And hostile mobs can actually spawn during these. It's kind of funny. It's kind of an exception to the rule, because typically that's supposed to be a light level 7 for hostile mobs. But it for some reason the game brings it down and treats it as an environment for hostile mobs to come out. I'm sure that's just to give it an effect on the game, just an ambience of sorts, make it more dangerous in a rainstorm. It kind of gives a new element to it. It's more fun, I think. And I thought this was kind of cool to find out that bats require a light level of 4, and that's really low, obviously, and that's obviously why you find them in caves. It's very atmospheric. Going on, passive mobs. For those Java people, they require a light level of 9. And for myself and fellow Bedrock people, that's going to be a light level of 12. And as I mentioned, hostile mobs will generate in 7 light level 7 and below. However, hostile mobs, as you probably already know, try to avoid the sunlight altogether. That's very just, you know that from day one when you play this game. Because they die from it. They catch on fire. They catch ablaze and burn and then vaporize into nothingness and leave little nice treats for us to pick up. But the creeper, I mean, not all of them die. Obviously, the creeper is resilient to light, and that can still blow the heck out of you. So you want to just keep that in mind. If you're new to the game, the light will not do anything to them. They are quite resilient. Also, moving back to plants, this is if you have agricultural farms, the sun's a great place for those to grow. That's just a given. But, now that we know these other light sources like glowstones and whatnot, I have, for me, for example, I have a farm in Silhouette City that's fairly deep down. But it's completely void of natural light. So I've put down some glowstones down there, and jack-o'-lanterns are a thing that my people worship. It's my headcanon in the game. It's I won't elaborate on that, but they're everywhere in my kingdom, so I light up a lot of my crops with jack-o'-lanterns, and those really accelerate the growth, really good. And as I said earlier, the torches have a light level 14, and those are really cheap to do, so I do that as well. I just torch the heck, just put them above my crops, along the walls or the fences. And I have a good abundance of wheat fields. Actually, it's the community crop for the people down below that are living under the earth. That's a whole story. Silhouette City's under siege constantly. Red torches, lanterns, even obviously probably no lanterns, but red torches, mushrooms, they emit a level of light, very small. If you heard my Mushroom Island episode, I kind of mentioned that mushrooms emit a little bit of light. If you're sailing on water at night and you look at the banks, you'll probably notice some almost if somebody put down torches out there, even though no one's been out there. It's new land. Those are probably mushrooms putting off a small glow. So we covered all the light levels, guys, and we're going to move on to comparing the Minecraft sun to our sun. And I'm just going to give you guys some facts, pretty much straight up facts that I found interesting about our sun, and many of you may have already learned about this in school or whatnot, but still I thought this stuff was just fun to know. And you can find, and obviously I link all my sources down on the description. A lot of these will be going to my X feed because I find this stuff really cool. A lot of these have videos associated with it. What I'm going to read off to you is from Science.nasa.gov/sun/facts. And you can find that, like I said, in the description. But NASA, this is what they do. And so I want to start saying that our sun has been around for a really long time, guys. It formed 4.6 billion years ago from a swirling cloud of gas called a solar nebula made of helium and hydrogen. And it formed to where we see it today, 93 million miles from Earth. That's a long ways, isn't it? I think I learned, I know I'm drawing a lot of knowledge, and I graduated from college a long time ago, but I think I remember, you're going to fact check me, but it takes 8 minutes to receive light from the sun to Earth. So, yeah, just a little random fact there. 93 million miles. Wow. I thought this upcoming fact was just awesome, though. I'm about to tell you. I thought this was really cool. The sun orbits the Milky Way, bringing us along with everything else, the moon, Mars, Jupiter, all the planets that we know that you can name or remember off the top of your head, all the asteroids, everything. The whole galaxy goes with the sun that we inhabit on Earth, the sun that we used to worship. And every 230 million years, that sun is going around the entire Milky Way, making a revolution every 230 million years. And it's moving at the speed of 450,000 miles per hour. And for you people listening in kilometers per hour, that is 720,000 kilometers per hour. That is, I just can't even wrap my mind around that. And this, what I'm about to drop on you guys, is also equally mind-numbing to try to think about or comprehend. The surface temperature of the sun, called the photosphere, the temperature of that is 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That equals out to be 5,500 degrees Celsius. My gosh. But the corona has that beat. The corona, the solar atmosphere temperature, and the corona is above the surface of, right? It's above the photosphere. This is, which kind of doesn't make sense. You would think the surface would be the hottest, but if you think about it, that's kind of how flames work. It's hotter in the center, not right at the bottom. Anyways, the corona is up to 3.5 million degrees Fahrenheit, equaling out to 2 million degrees Celsius. Talk about a lot of fuel to smelt stuff, guys. Like, could you imagine? Just give me a piece of the sun to put in my furnace in the overworld, and I will have all the glass I could ever want. And iron and gold. I'll just throw everything in it. I thought that was just cool stuff, guys. Honestly, I thought it was so cool. But we're going to move on from the sun. I'll let you guys kind of just think about all that I threw at you about the sun, and prep yourself now, because we're going back to the moon. We've already visited that place, but here we go, the moon. Personally, between the sun and the moon, I find the moon much more interesting. Sure, the sun provides all the energy for life on this planet, blah blah blah. But the moon I can actually look at without going blind nor catching a sunburn. And the moon is a solid object with context, not a flaming ball of condensed gas. I want to start this section of the moon off with my own world's headcanon. The headcanon of Ombre Dieu, the name of my realm. And my people, with the books provided, in the game, I have written 5 books. And one of them is like this codex for the people, a religion, if you will. But one is a practice called the Moonlit Vigil. And so here's a quote from the Shadow Codex that my people all go to and read. I begin. Quote, "Under the moon's watchful gaze, all followers must observe the moonlit vigil. From dusk till dawn, we shall remain vigilant, guarding against the encroaching darkness and the awakening of the undead." End quote. Now let's move on to the phases of the moon. Now that you have a little bit of my lore that I developed from my game, and you guys will learn more about that when the Sun King and I talk later in an episode. The phases of the moon. I found this material from Wiki along with all the sun-related facts. And you can find these links on the show description. Going on, I want to say that the moon phases, I did a little bit more research into this yesterday. I wanted to know when the moon phases were implemented into the game for you people who like the history. That was put into the beta 1.9 pre-release 4. And from what I found, that was on October 13th, 2011, was when the moon phases were brought into our overworld, which I think is just spectacular. Also, I have to throw this in there. Before we delve further into moon phases, and I apologize, guys, for the interruption, because I just learned this, and I just remembered it, and I missed this, but April Fool's last year, they came out with like a snapshot. I don't quite fully understand what happened. I was playing actively, but I must have missed this, but during April Fool's, they released the moon. You could go to the moon if you flew up to 700 blocks, and the moon was made of cheese, and there were moon cows with glass helmets on, and they walked backwards. There was a bunch of different blocks up there. It sounded cool. It never obviously was permanently put in, or I don't even know if somebody could write in and specify on this and let me know if that was an actual thing that we could have visited back in 2023 for April Fool's. I want to know. So moving on, so I missed that. So moving on, I'm sorry, type that into Wiki, April Fool's moon Minecraft and see what I mean. Okay, guys, now let's move on. The moon, like the sun in the game, rises in the east and sets in the west. Let's just get that out there. It follows the sun, or the sun follows the moon, however you want to see it. And the moon in the game has, as Mojang cleverly does, like they really get things quite accurate, actually. It follows the same 8 phases our moon does from Earth, like that we view from Earth. And I'll go ahead and name them. You have the full moon, then the waning gibbous, you have the last quarter, the waning crescent, and then you have your new moon. Then following the new moon, you have the waxing crescent, the first quarter, and the waxing gibbous, and then the full moon. And so I thought that was cool that the virtual moon that we all look at during the night replicates the real one that we see here on Earth, and I love that they do that. I love that Minecraft does that, and that kind of inspired me to link real world knowledge with the game. That's why I do this, is because they accurately follow nature when they implement some of these things to a degree. I want to move on to moon effects on mobs. This is really fun, and I love how it has effects on the mobs of the game. So let's dive in. Like the slimes. Slimes are important for sticky pistons, so I love to find slimes. So this is useful to you. If you want to find more slimes, you need to do it at this phase of the moon. They are the most numerous during a full moon, and they are the least numerous, can't say that word, during a new moon. So guys, if you want to go slime hunting, go during a full moon out in that swamp or wherever they spawn at. The fuller the moon also, it doesn't just affect the slimes, but the fuller the moon affects a variety of hostile mobs. For example, during the fuller the moon, so just take this in degrees, the fuller the moon becomes, people, the more prevalent what I'm about to say occurs. the higher chance of zombies and skeletons to be sporting armor and wielding weapons. So that's one thing for you. These things become more dangerous. 2, the ability to pick up objects, so they can pick up things. So let's say you die, they're going to pick up your sword and wear your armor and be even more dangerous then when you come back and you're the most vulnerable. Especially if your bed's right there, if you just happen to be close to it, you have to go back through that area. You're going to get attacked by them, by your own blade. That's just a shame. Moving on. There's a higher chance, the fuller the moon, of them having enchanted armor. So hey, you farmers out there, I think that could be that using the moon to your advantage, like the fuller the moon on those nights, if you have some mob collection, like you're collecting those in a farm, that information may be useful to you. Getting all that armor and those goodies. I mean, enchanted armor is rare, and that is so fun to find enchanted armor. I love it. And if they are wearing enchanted armor, from what I found on Wiki, that the enchantment levels are augmented, so it's even better enchanted armor. So isn't that just awesome? And also, I thought this was awesome, that 50% of the cats in your villages will be black. They will generate as black. Isn't that just... I love how they set that, just the ambience of the spookiness and putting that element into the game, and it just... everything adheres to that. It just becomes creepier the fuller the moon, and I think that's just fun. Yeah, I don't know. This game I could just talk about forever, guys. So you're just gonna have a lot of episodes to hear me talk, and the moon's one of them. And we're going to move on now to our moon, the one we see from Earth, and I want to describe that a bit to you before moving on to stars after that. So now we're going to the moon, guys. Okay, everybody, I have finally got to our moon that we get to see from the Earth, and I think there's nothing prettier than gazing at a full moon. Even better yet, a blood moon, a blue moon, all those moons, and there's many of them, and they're all equally beautiful and unique in their own way. And as I said, there's so much more to see to the moon, and you're not going to go blind. And I found this super cool, fascinating article written by Tracy Vogel, Moon Formation. It's titled Moon Formation, and it's from NASA Science, and you'll find that link in the show description. I highly recommend that you check that out. It's really cool. It has some great pictures and videos linked to it, and you'll learn a lot. It's just extremely fascinating. So I'm going to be giving you some facts that I learned from it, and I think you guys will find it interesting. They went on and elaborated a lot. There's a lot to learn about the moon, so I got the interesting facts here, people. For starters, I didn't realize that the moon was 27% of our Earth's size. And it's also 239,000 miles away from us. So obviously not as far as the sun, but still that's quite a distance, and pretty remarkable to me that we were able to land there and put some people up there and walk around and collect samples. That's just amazing. Sorry for you that people that are in kilometers, that the moon is 385,000 kilometers. I did not forget you. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I tried to do my best, breaking down standard metric conversions so everybody gets a good understanding. Another interesting fact that I found, being big into language, is that in Latin, luna is moon, which makes sense because we see it in a lot of our words, which I didn't realize a lot of them were to explain crazy people. Hence words like lunacy, which means insanity influenced by the moon. I thought that was interesting. Or lunarscape, or lunatic, etc. I'm going to move on now. I want to move on to, we didn't know of any other moon but the one above our heads. That most visible thing, the most visible thing besides the sun above us. Until 1610, when a guy who I'm sure you have heard of, who goes by the name Galileo Galilei, I'm sure I said that right? Galileo Galilei he found 4 more moons orbiting Jupiter back in 1610. I, for some reason, thought we may have discovered more moons before that. So that kind of shocked me. So we haven't really known, to me, that's a long time ago, but it's relatively recent human history. And if you want to know something that I thought was even more interesting than that, was how the moon formed. And according to Tracy Vogel in this article, it formed 4.5 billion years ago. That's a long time ago, but the interesting part was this I'm about to say. This was the result of our dear planet Earth getting into a fender bender with a massive object the size of Mars. And it was named Theia. I should probably say Earth was more totaled from this collision than, let's say, a fender bender, right? This was a huge impact. This was huge. The name Theia, which is interesting in itself, is named after this is a quote from the article, a mythological Greek titan who was the mother of Selene, goddess of the moon. After Theia smashed into our beloved Earth, parts of that collision flew out into space and coalesced and formed into that pockmarked faced pale structure of a moon that we know today. And to me, that's really cool. I like Greek mythology, and learning those names and the association with the moon was really neat. And just because also this fact that we know that the moon was hit and was part of that collision formed from Earth, from that object in Earth. Part of the moon is parts of Earth from it coalescing, all those bits and pieces from the aftermath. And we know that from collections of soil samples from the moon. And we discovered that there's basalt rock on the moon that is uncannily similar to ours in composition. And I want to say that's, I thought, a very clever way of identifying that, of that investigation of linking the moon is a derivative of a collision that Earth had with a massive Mars object. But also, I thought it was pretty cool that the basalt is found in the nether as well, by the soul sand biomes in the nether. So yeah, I'm going to kind of link that to the nether. I'm dropping, I know, some hints pretty hard on this on purpose. The nether being located within the interior of the moon will be for a future episode, though. So yeah, keep following the show, guys. I'm going to be diving into that later in another episode. Anyways, the moon has transformed quite a bit since that collision. After forming, the moon was a different place to see. like right after its formation, like after the collision and it just condensing all the pieces. In fact, it was covered in an ocean of lava. And from what I read, it was a deep ocean. It wasn't just a puddle. This thing was like the surface was lava. Isn't that wild? And the crust of it today is all composed of smashed up rock that have just been obliterated and pulverized the heck out of by meteorites just hitting that. Obviously, everybody, you can look up at the moon and just see how it's just been pummeled. It's had a rough existence, poor moon. So that's all I have on the moon, everybody. I thought the moon, delving in, researching that was really cool. Thea, I love that. Mars hitting Earth, talk about violent past. But now we're going to do a slight move out and look at the stars, everybody. And I'm not going to talk too much on specifically stars, but we're going to get into stars just a wee bit. We are moving on to stars, everybody. I am going to be wrapping this episode up with stars, the other celestial beings you see in the night sky besides the moon and the sun in the overworld. And I'm not going to be delving into stars that we see from Earth, because I would make this into a 5-hour podcast episode if I was to just talk about everything in space. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some info that I thought was kind of intriguing, actually, about stars in Minecraft. And again, I found most of this from Wiki, guys. If you just type in star in Wiki, which I'll also leave the link, you can go ahead and find this. It wasn't a big article at all. There's not really too much to say about the stars up in our sky. They've been tweaked to very little. But I want to go ahead and say that we all witness the same night sky. Doesn't matter what seed you open or which friend's realm you play on. All the stars all derive from the same seed. Theories have been derived from this, people. I'm one of them. I'm one of the people that derives theories from this. Even if I don't agree with my own theories, I will be having, I'm listing out future episodes here, but I'll probably have a theory about a mega overworld. I disagree with it in parts, but we all share the same night sky, or we're all seeing the same pattern of the night sky. However you want to say it, it's the same constellations, same star positions. And that all comes from seed number 1084-2. 1084-2. All the stars are configured and generated from that seed specific to the star makeup. And stars have been around since the beginning of the game. I personally want to tell you what I suggested on Reddit to people about stars, and something that I have done, and something I like to do, is I started making constellations. And for one, there's a couple stars, about 3 or 4, I can't quite remember. It's night in my game right now, let me look. About 3, and I call it le main, which in French means hand, and it kind of wraps around the moon and just follows it the whole way, because they're all fixed. The stars are fixed and the moon is fixed together, and they all follow each other relative. And so I call that le main. So I suggested people, you can get fun and add more personal headcanon to your realm by naming your own constellations and put that into your own personal lore. I think that's a fun thing to do, and that's something I personally do, honestly. And I think it adds more to the game. You just have to use your imagination and just fully delve in. It makes your civilization more unique to me. And you build structures and the formations of your name constellations and all sorts of different things. I want to move on, though, to a star that is in the game that serves importance. And it doesn't serve a static value, but actually you can use it, and that is the nether star. And yes, we are covering the nether star because it's a star. It's a star. And I could probably do a whole episode theorizing over this weird object. But I found on wiki again, if you type in beacon, because that's what I'm going to teach you how to make here, is a beacon using the nether star, is from this article on wiki. So I want to cover these and how they function in the game, but let's start with the basics and how to build the beacon itself. You're going to take 5 glass blocks. Yeah, that's really basic, probably about the most basic thing here. And 3 obsidian blocks, which you can find, if you find a ruined portal in the overworld, which they're pretty much everywhere. If you do a little exploring, you'll find them scattered around. And don't find the weeping of obsidian blocks. I don't think that works. And then you're going to need a nether star, which is the real problem for me because I haven't defeated a wither, which you have to. It's the only way to get a nether star is by defeating the wither. And once you defeat the wither, he drops his star, and you're able to build this beacon with that star, the 5 glass blocks, and the 3 obsidian blocks. So these are more in-game builds, I would say, everybody. Just as a caveat, for you new people, just take this as something to strive to, because I haven't done this yet. I haven't built a beacon. I want to. I think they look super cool. They look alien to me. I'll get to that. But it's not exactly for players new to the game, but it's fascinating to listen to. The beacon requires a pyramid base. Pyramids seem to be a thing in this game. So in temples. So this pyramid can be in 4 different sizes, and I'm going to list them from largest to smallest. The largest being a 9x9, and then a 7x7, then going down to a 5x5, and the smallest being a 3x3. And these pyramids must be made of a combination of these materials I'm about to say. It could be all of one of these or a combo of them, I believe, is what I read, a combo. Fact check that, people. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I read that. I don't have that in my notes. I didn't write that down. Anyways, it has to be made from one of these materials, and that has to be gold, diamond, netherite, iron, or emerald blocks, which if you have a farm, like an iron farm, people, again, I know beginners, you probably don't have any farms. I have an iron farm, and I have a ton of iron, and so that is definitely feasible. If you trade a bunch with villagers, people, beginners even, you can get emerald blocks if you get enough emeralds, and so that's totally feasible. Now I want to move on to the cool part of these beacons. The effects of them are cool, which I learned a lot from this because I haven't built one yet, so this is all new to me reading this. But the most common sought over effects generated to the players within the certain radius of the beacon will get a choice of powers that will radiate from it, if that makes sense. Like this beacon, it radiates to a certain radius. The larger the pyramid, the larger the radius, and if you're in that radius, you receive these effects, these powers, which are cool. And I want to go ahead and go on to tell you what they are. And I have 5 of them listed here, and I'll list off 1 being speed level 1, which is increased movement of speed. And let's move on to 2, which is haste level 1, which is increased mining and attack speed, which is very handy, guys. I mean, especially if you're in that radius battling. Number 3, resistance 1, which is decreased nearly all incoming damage. And that says here you need a 2-level pyramid required. So I'm guessing that's probably, let me see here, that would be what, the 5x5, I'm guessing. They're requiring, and the jump boost also requires a 2-level pyramid, I'm about to say. And the jump boost level 1 is increased jumping distance and height. And then number 5, out of these benefits of having this beacon and this pyramid is strength 1, and that'll increase the melee damage. And for that though, you will need a pyramid level 3, which if I'm going by this is 7x7, I believe, pyramid. And if you want secondary powers that come along with a choice of one of these 5, you are going to have to build a level 4 pyramid, which is the biggest 9x9 one that I mentioned earlier. And that's going to give you regenerative health. So that is just awesome. You can get one of these. Let's say I want jump boost and I'm standing within this radius. I can jump higher, I think up to 2 blocks high, and I'm getting healed. Or let's say even better yet, I'm in haste and attack speed, attacking things. I'm taking damage and but I'm healing as I'm taking damage. I want this. I want one. Also because it shoots up a beam of light all the way into space from the beacon. And if you're in bedrock, you can view these beams up to 64 blocks away as the rendering crow flies, I should say. Haha. But Java can see this way further, people, which I'm jealous. They can see this baby up to 256 blocks away as the rendering crow flies, as I say. And you can change the color of these beams by using dyed glass blocks and place it over the beam. It'll shoot through the glass and make it that color, which I would use for my kingdom's color from its national flag. I think that's just amazing. I want to build one. I need to start doing some work, people. I hope you guys found that all interesting. That wraps up pretty much everything I have on stars for this. The nether star is so cool. I hope you guys get one. I hope that inspires you new to the game, or intermediate people, or people like me that have been playing forever but are still like at intermediate level, to go get that star. Yeah, and build that pyramid. Build the biggest. Get regenerative health, and pick a cool power. Wow, I am really good at overloading you all with information, aren't I? Let's take a quick breath. No, I thought that I wanted to just go all over the celestial bodies in Minecraft, and because I think it's an overlooked element of the game. And I think that you can actually get some advantages out of that, like using the moon phases, for example, with the slimes, and harvesting enchanted armor and even more powerful enchanted armor from hostile mobs during full moons. So I thought a lot of this could be useful, a lot of it be interesting knowledge to back up you and your lore, and to add to your headcanon in your own personal realms. But I just want, just go back over this a little bit, debrief if you will. I started you guys off by breaking down the day and night cycle in the game. And before I did the research on that, I had always thought that day and night were 10 minutes each, equal, like I said at the beginning of this episode. I thought they were just even divide. Little did I know that the day was longer than the night by 3 whole minutes, which is quite significant. And so I thank you, Mojang, for that extra 3 minutes of productive building time and not being worried about getting killed. I appreciate that, and I'm sure all of you too. I also thought it was interesting that the sun used to rise in the north and set in the south, and that it used to be, they tested it being more round for a period of time that lasted, a year, I believe? I thought that was pretty cool. I kind of wish I was around to see that, or had been playing around that time. Also, just in real life, learning that the moon being struck, that Earth being struck by a massive Mars-sized object, and the aftermath of that collision resulted in the formation of the moon, and the moon is in that object that formed the moon was named Thea after the goddess of the moon. I thought that was just plain cool. Just fascinating. And again, the effects on the mobs and the light levels and what you can use for lights, like the glowstones being the same amount light level as the sun. That's useful for your crops, especially if you're in places of no light. And as I said, I could see people utilizing full moons to optimize their mob farms and collecting enchanted armor and other more rare objects. I hope you guys can use this information for the advantage, take advantage of this info I gave you for your gameplay while you're out there in the overworld. I know that I do, from naming Le Mans constellation. That's just me adding more to my lore, and I plan on naming more. It's fun for me to make these things up, and I'm sure it is for you guys too, because you're playing this game, and that's part of it, is creating out of your own imagination, your own lore, and the stars are part of it, from the blocks you're standing on to above your head. And I just wanted to point all that out, the sun, the moon, and the nether star, and the beacon, and all those cool aspects of the game. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hey everyone, the Dark Lord here. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that plus sign up there and follow me so you can get my latest weekly episodes sent directly to you. Send this podcast to all your friends. Comment on each episode and take a poll. And don't forget to rate the show. This will help me improve the show, guys. I just want to make this the best, most interesting show for you. This weekly show, The Realm News. Also, you can find me at what was formerly called Twitter, but now is called X, at realmnews 247. That's at realmnews 24/7. There you'll find some of the cool articles that I talk about from my episodes, and videos from my research, and polls, and Minecraft related content.